Yes. What are you saying? All good, yeah. Good, good. What we're going to be talking about today is basically how to stay motivated with regards to not just working out, but we're going to apply it to working out today. But it can be applied to anything, and it's going to be based around dopamine. So what is dopamine? There's a book named after it called The Molecule of More. Basically, it's a neurotransmitter that is essential for drive, motivation, pleasure and movement. Drive, motivation, pleasure and movement. So it dictates how well we're motivated and the pleasure we derive from it, essentially. How much pleasure you achieve relative to an activity, a task, something that you do, something that you consume, is based on two things: two baseline levels and the peak. So the bigger the peak, the bigger the enjoyment, but the bigger the peak that we have an equal and opposite crash of dopamine. So we're going, see what I mean? Okay, so what increases dopamine? Well, there's quite a few things, a shitload of things, a shit ton of things, but we'll go through a few here. Caffeine, by 2 times. If your baseline's here, we go up to here. Chocolate, 1.5 times. If your baseline's here, we go up to here. Cocaine, 2.5 times, 250%. If your baseline's here, we go up to about here. Meth, way up, mate, 10%. 10% or 100? No, I don't know. 10 times. What percent is that? 1,000%. Good maths. Okay. So due to this rule of dopamine going up, peaking, so we have the baseline is going up, peaking, and we have an equal and opposite crash of dopamine after a task, and dopamine being the molecule of pursuit, motivation, and pleasure. What that means is that every time we have these massive peaks and crashes, our baseline dopamine levels can drop for a certain period of time, so you have reduced pleasure or reduced motivation to do it. So what are the implications of this with regards to sticking to something, specifically working out here, but sticking to anything? In habit setting books, what you might see is when we're looking to set a habit, we also have a reward. Make it easy and give yourself a reward after. Now that might actually not be beneficial for setting that habit, because every time you reward yourself, you get an increased spike in dopamine. But then after, we have an equal and opposite crash. And every time you do this task, the threshold for you to achieve that level of motivation and pleasure is higher. So every time you do that, the reward must be bigger for you to want to do that again, essentially. It's why you build up a tolerance to alcohol or drugs. You have to take more to get the same effect. It's because of dopamine tolerance. So with this in mind, we want an intermittent dopamine schedule whenever we're trying to do a task, and stick to it, stay motivated for it, still get pleasure from it. What does that mean? An unpredictable schedule. Don't know what's going on. It's not 1 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off. It's got to be unpredictable. You might as well just be flipping a coin. So an example of this might be working out. So working out increases dopamine 2 times. If we layer that with music and caffeine, we're getting a bigger dopamine spike. So that's fine, we can do that once, twice in a row. But next time we do it, we might just remove the music and just work out without any music, lower spike in dopamine. Next time, we might work out with a partner, work out with music, time after that, just the partner, no music, working out, and then the next time we might go for taking a pre-workout, shitload of cocaine, and a reward after. So essentially we're having this intermittent reward scheme, which you see in casinos, basically essentially keeping you addicted to whatever activity that you want to stay motivated for, because we're not pushing that threshold constantly. So, okay, so that's it, dopamine in a nutshell. One little thing to note is caffeine does upregulate an increased density of dopamine receptors. So whilst it might not be beneficial to have it all the time, it is beneficial to have it quite often. Don't take the piss. Don't have bare coffees every day, like 4 or 5 coffees every day. We need to sleep. But in general, caffeine should be somewhere within your diet if you want to maximise your motivation, drive, pleasure and movement. Yeah. Alrighty then. Alrighty then. That's it. Bon voyage, motherfuckers. That's it, dopamine in a nutshell. One little thing to note is caffeine does upregulate an increased density of dopamine receptors. So whilst it might not be beneficial to have it all the time, it is beneficial to have it quite often. Don't take the piss. Don't have bare coffees every day, like 4 or 5 coffees every day. We need to sleep. But in general, caffeine should be somewhere within your diet if you want to maximise your motivation, drive, pleasure and movement. Yeah. Alrighty then. Alrighty then. That's it. Bon voyage, motherfuckers.